By now, you've probably heard my magic wand story. It's a brand that's been part of my personal journey for more than 20 years. But no matter how many times I sing Magic Wand's praises, I'll never be able to fully capture the story of this incredible brand. Well, now journalist and author Kate Sloan just completed a limited audio series documenting the history and impact that Magic Wand has created over the last 56 years. It's called Making Magic. And the series chronicles Magic Wand's incredible brand story through interviews with nearly 40 experts, performers, business owners, educators, and fans. So I got a sneak preview of this series, and what I loved is that Kate weaves together snippets from all their interviews into this amazing story arc. She covers Magic Wand's journey from appliance store massager to its legendary influence on culture and sexual independence, and it's all just fascinating. The first episodes of Making Magic are available now at makingmagicseries.com or on all popular podcast platforms. Just search for Making Magic or visit makingmagicseries.com today. Thanks for listening to Sex with Emily. On today's show, I'm joined by hosts of the new podcast, Screwed Up Stories, Rachael O'Brien and Chrisitne Blackburn, and we're talking about screwing. Topics include, we all have messed up stories, but that doesn't mean we're messy people. Dating, what the rules really are. And here's a hint, they look different for everyone. How to initiate sex and actually have it without excuses. And ways to make your orgasms even more intense. All this and more. Thanks for listening.
Look into his eyes. They're the eyes of a man obsessed by sex. Eyes that mock our sacred institutions. Bedroom eyes, they call them in a bygone day.
Hey, Emily, you got a boyfriend? Because my man E here, he just got his heart broken. He thinks you're kind of cute.
A girl's got to have her standards. Oh, my.
Do women know about shrinkage?
Isn't it common knowledge?
What do you mean, like laundry? It shrinks?
Can we not talk about sex so much?
Are you kidding me?
Oh my God, it feels so good.
Being bad feels pretty good. But you know, Emily's not the kind of girl you just play with.
You're listening to Sex with Emily. We're talking about sex, relationships, and everything in between. For more information, check out sexwithemily.com. You can easily subscribe to the podcast, and you can check out all the posts and all the things we have happening on the site. As always, love when you follow us on social media at Sex with Emily across the board, which you really want to do right now. If you're not already, I'm sure you are. But if you're not, we've got some amazing giveaways happening for Valentine's Day and beyond. First one is you can check out our Foria Awaken giveaway. We're giving away 4 bottles of Foria Awaken, which is a CBD pre-lube that just makes sex a lot hotter, makes you more aroused, turns you on. We've talked a lot about Foria on the show, but we're giving it away. From now until Valentine's Day, email feedback@sexwithemily.com with the subject Foria giveaway and tell us why Foria will help jumpstart your sex life. Please include your name, your age, where you live, and how you listen to the show. Giveaway number 2, Woo More Play giveaway. Woo More Play is the most delicious coconut oil lube that is great for massage. It tastes delicious and it's just the most sensual, sexy thing. So I'm excited because we're giving it away. So follow me on Instagram at Sex with Emily. Screenshot you listening to the show. Wherever you listen, upload it to your story, tag at Sex with Emily, and write 1 sentence on why you love the podcast. We'll be putting it on our story on Instagram and choosing a couple people to win Woo More Play, one of my latest lube obsessions. So when we say a screenshot of you listening to the show, it could just be a screenshot of the show if you don't want to put your photo in it. But if it's you listening, to do a selfie of you listening, I'm cool with that too. All right, guys, hope you enjoy the show. I've got special guests in the studio, Rachael O'Brien and Chrisitne Blackburn.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. They're from the podcast Screwed Up Stories, but they also have many things going on in their lives. And Rachael was on the show like the first week. Were you here?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Comedian and a friend. And Christine's a new friend, storytelling coach, producer, host, and now the new podcast.
All that stuff.
All the things.
Yes.
I loved being on it. I told a screwed up story.
It was a great story.
It was. Okay. I did. I didn't know. And then there was a whole thing. I told a story about when my ex-boyfriend was a doctor. I got bit by a black widow and had to end up in the hospital. And he was my doctor in the emergency room. So you guys can check out their podcast.
It's impossible.
But it happened.
It really did happen.
Especially because he never worked that shift. Like, you did not expect to see him.
All the things lined up,
Yeah.
right? Exactly.
Perfect
I'm like,
storm.
he never works that shift, and then why was he there, and all the things. So tell me, how did you guys come up with screwed up stories? Like, what is that? It's a good.
Well, it's
idea.
funny because the original idea that we had was the screw, which would kind of be like the View, but the screw. So it's 4 women of different generations talking about sex in the way that they do on the View, but it's the screw.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a really good idea,
Right, but when it all shook down, you can't get the screw on.
Someone already had taken the name.
Yeah, I mean, of
right
course.
before we decided to take it to Westwood One, someone had just started a podcast like a month before.
And
with
of
that
course,
name.
it's a porno, podcast, and it really
course.
isn't. It's not good. It's and it's sort of a drag that they kind of took that name. But anyway, that's where it started, was the
Okay.
screw, and then Rachel's the one that came up with. Wait a minute. So let's talk about the screw. Screwed up. We've all screwed up. Screwed up stories. Let's go there.
And we don't necessarily have to just focus on sex. It can be any type of screwed up story, like how you've screwed up or how someone screwed you over, or
Yeah, and everybody's got that story.
They do, but do you feel like a lot of the screwed up stories, why they always seem to be about sex and dating anyway, right?
Most of them have been about men. There have been a few that weren't. Let me think. There was one about this girl, Carrie Martin, whose aunt tried to murder her uncle by injecting his he had just gotten surgery, and she injected his IV vein thingy, whatever, with fecal matter, and got arrested and convicted of trying to murder him. But then they got back together later. He forgave her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
That's
crazy.
like the
to say.
They're back together.
And then we've had other people on, like comedian Kathy Ladman, and she talked about her eating disorder, and and screwing up that way. So there's all different things. And the idea is that when we all get together and talk about these things, we find that we have so much in common.
We really do.
Doesn't matter how old you are as a woman, if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or as a man, we all screw up, and it's just it's comforting.
It is comforting when you
And
can
fun.
really. It is fun to
fun
tell
to
those
laugh
stories
about it later.
Exactly, it's like relatable, and when we're all real and we're all walking around like pretending that we're so perfect or whatever people do to show that we all can relate to these different whatever challenges in our life.
Yeah.
But let's go back to sex at the different ages, because we have a lot of different women in the room tonight. This is the most we've had. We had everyone on the mic earlier, and my team is growing, which is great. But God, sex changes all the time, and we never have a lot of, like, you guys in your 20s, 40s, 30s.
I'm in my 50s.
50s. Okay. So
I
let's
gotta
just
tell
do
you.
our version of screwed.
I gotta tell you, sex doesn't go away. Do you know what I mean? Like the sex appetite, the sexual appetite, or the desire, or the fact that you can and still have pleasure no matter what age you are. Orgasms are always there.
Exactly.
They're ageless.
So you never had any change. We have a lot of women who call it like sex drive wanes, and it changes. But I think you're right. I think that 50. I mean, come
thought it
on.
was supposed
of
to
course,
get better
It
like
does.
that, yeah.
I think it does
I
get
think
better
because
you know.
because you get more honest with yourself and you're able to communicate better and say, like, hey, look, we're adults here. Let's just talk about it. Here's what I like. What do you
But
like?
don't you wish you could tell your younger self that, and we could tell everyone listening, like because we think, well, I believe that guys were supposed to figure it out, that they knew how to work my body better than I did, and I didn't know to speak up. But you're right. You get older, you're like, hey, let's not. Except for if you're like Jamie, 25, she already speaks up right away. But I feel like
You probably trained her though.
yeah,
Well, that's
maybe.
not- yeah, I mean,
She
like,
came
half and half.
pre-lubed, but she's now but it's true. But I wish that. But what you know now is like just your body, confidence, all those things, right?
And I happen to have a guy that I'm dating, and he actually told me, thank you so much for telling me what you want. He's like, this is the best sex I've ever had in my life because you're talking to me.
Exactly. It's just as simple as talking about it. That is such a
It's
good.
very empowering.
It probably is the best because we assume we give men all this power that like they should figure it out.
It's a
but
lot
it
of
is
pressure
about-
to put on them too.
It
Like,
is
that's
a lot of
unfair,
pressure.
technically.
I know. How about you, Rachel? How's it going with you and your sex life? I mean, I knew her recently, but
Well, we've
she's
talked
very
about this.
orgasmic. I know.
I know. I've always just
she has a lot of orgasms
I
and
feel
amazing
bad,
sex.
but it's like always
It's
been
kind of
easy for
annoying.
me.
That's a good thing,
It
man.
is
just
good.
because I never put too much pressure on it. It was never like performative in bed, or like I just enjoyed it. I never like think about like, does my body look bad right now? It's like, why not enjoy it?
But that's hard for a lot of women.
It
to
is
not
hard
be
for a lot of
selfish
women.
about, or
Yeah.
self-conscious about your body, whether you feel like you have a little too much weight here or there, or you're not toned enough, or you don't like
Guys
the way.
don't care.
I know.
They're
I
just
know.
happy you're there.
Guys, exactly. They do not
So
care.
true.
I think we're going to solve a lot of problems tonight for people listening. For a lot of people who have body image and they're worrying, if someone's in bed with you, they're having sex with you, and you're having a good time, get out of your head.
You know, I was just listening to you in the last hour, and you were talking about giving blowjobs and how you have to make eye contact and all that. And some women might be like, "Oh, I'm too embarrassed. I'm too whatever," and it's like, you can't be that way.
No, you
you're already
can't.
there. You're already naked with somebody.
Right. What are you hiding?
Exactly.
Like, eye contact is like the last holdout. Like, I'm literally like,
If I look at him, it might not actually be happening.
Right,
right now.
exactly. If I look at you, then it's real. So I'm not going to look right now. You're absolutely right. But eye contact is it's interesting how intimate eye contact is.
Yeah.
And it just shouldn't be that way. So the other thing we were talking about earlier, I want to get your guys' take on this. We were talking about the rules in dating, how it used to, I want to know what you guys think, if it's changed that. Back in the day, maybe, that it was that if women slept with someone, that there should be a rule that women should wait before they sleep with someone. And we're talking about heterosexual. I mean, it goes across the board, but people have rules. Wait 3 months. Wait. What do you think about that?
Go ahead, Rach.
Sleeping together. Do you think it's ever too soon?
I mean, I have heard, because I've asked guy friends this and couples this, and I have heard stories across the board from like having hooking up on the first date and now they're married to, well, here's the thing. This is the most important part of it, I think, at least for me, is that I don't think you're going to get someone to commit to you just by holding out. So if that's your goal, if your intention is to sort of like trick someone into being with you, I think that is not a good idea.
Right.
And it's never going to be for the right reasons, and that's never going to work.
That's not the right reason.
Yeah,
at
that's
all.
not-
Never going to work.
Yeah. So when people do that, like, well, if I make him wait for 3 months and then he'll want to be my boyfriend, and then it's like, that's never going to last.
But
Playing games and
but
stuff.
that being said, once you go that far, almost every time you're going to see him after that, that's kind of where you need to go again, if not more. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't really, if you have sex on the first date, then the next date, you can't just be like, let's go to first base, we're done here.
Yeah. I never really...
You can.
I think, see, my thing is that it's, if you can wait, you just met someone, you can't wait to rip their clothes off, maybe make out a little longer, do everything but, so then there's that, you build the tension, and then for next time you can see, I think it's better to wait as long as you can, because that could be really hot to get to know them a little better, but
Yeah.
That's like a good reason to wait. But
Yeah.
then, like, I agree with Rachel. If you're just waiting to, like, be like, I'm going to lock them in this way,
Yeah.
then it's just like,
yeah,
you're
that's
not
ridiculous.
solving
Yeah.
anything.
How about playing games at all, though? I'm going to lock someone in if I don't call them back or don't text or seem less available.
Yeah,
What do you
all of
think
that.
about it?
But that comes with maturity too.
That's
I mean,
what I
you
think,
can't
too.
say to, well, now, Jamie, you're different. You're above and beyond 25. I mean, at least in your experience, it seems. But I think that a lot of girls that are 19, 20, 25, even 30, that they are still maturing and still learning. I mean, what are the, how to navigate and to have confidence.
I don't know. Those games have never worked for me. Every time I tried to do it, because basically I think that when you have to play those games, it means the person's probably not that interested. Because usually when the dating happens smoothly, you don't have to play those games.
I'm totally in agreement with you, Rachel. I feel like the same thing. I had one guy a few years ago. I had a friend. She was like, "You got to play the game," and she was like coaching me. This was a long time. I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Well, don't text back. Don't double text." I'm like, "This is all ridiculous." And then the guys who you're into, like, it's natural. There's no. They're calling. They're not being like, "I'm not going to call you for 3 days."
Guys are not nearly as complicated as women, for sure.
right.
We're convoluting things, I think, more than men are. Now, I just listened to your podcast a couple of weeks ago, and you guys were talking about the 5 stages of dating.
Yes.
And Jamie, Jamie and Emily, you guys were both talking about how that first stage, when you want to rip each other's clothes off,
Yep.
is so fun.
It's so fun.
So that's the stage I like to stay in.
Right. We all want to
as
stay
long
in
as
that-
possible.
How can we all stay in that stage? How do you keep that going? Right. I mean, that is the goal. I mean, it's not. I don't think it works. I don't think you can stay there forever. But yeah, part of delaying sex, not purposely, but doing everything else and getting to know each other, is that newness and that
Delaying
stage.
gratification.
Delaying gratification. Yeah. And then for women too, a lot of us, it's just like our brains is what turned us on, or the thinking the sexy thoughts, fantasies. What about you guys? Do you masturbate? Have fantasies?
Who doesn't masturbate? How could you not? Everybody
Okay.
does,
Well,
right?
thank you. Well, I got to tell you something, Christine. It's a really good question. Yes, I do. We do. I feel that I have to remind women to masturbate a lot. I mean, like, not men. They've got that down.
Yeah.
I have to be like, no, it's cool. You're like on the bus. You don't need to masturbate. But with women, they're like, because a lot of women are disconnected from their bodies, or they think it's not right, or I should wait for my partner to turn me on. But as you know, the more you masturbate, the more in the mood you're going to be. But I love you're like, who doesn't?
Well, I have to say, like, if I'm going to have a date that night, or I think I'm going to anticipate sex, I'm not going to masturbate that day, because then it kind of makes it harder later, I think. So I think it depends on, everybody's looking at me with these glued up.
I thought that was different for women. I thought it was the opposite. Like, like it's once you like sort of get in the mood, it's easier.
But Rachel, you just came out in the waiting room. I mean,
I know.
No, I'm just saying that, it's one of those things, when you let the floodgates open and you have this strong orgasm, and then 3 hours later, 5 hours later, you're having sex with your boyfriend or your husband. I don't know. For me, it's a little bit harder.
Right. Okay. So maybe not the same day.
Not the same day.
Day of. Right. Yeah. I feel like the more I just do it, I feel like I can still come again. But for me, it's like frequency, like a few times a week to keep my pilot light lit. So sex is top of mind. And so for a lot of women, they don't think about it. And then they're like, why is my libido so low? It's because you're not charging the engine.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. Did you always know that, to masturbate? It was always a thing?
I didn't know that until I was about 26 years old. And I was married when I was very young, like 25. And a year after I was married, my ex-husband got another girl pregnant while we were married.
Oh, wow.
And this is so funny. This is kind of just occurring to me now.
Oh, I love it.
He's out. He's moved. He's gone, right? And now I'm in the apartment by myself. And he has taken all of his stuff, but he's left some things, right? The bottom of the closet, the top of the closet, there's some shit. And I'm going through it, and I find a vibrator.
In his stuff?
In his stuff, right? And I never saw that before. So I take that vibrator, and that's the first time it occurred to me, oh, shit, this is Eureka.
Way to get back at him.
Eureka. And that was like such a moment, but I was 26. I should have known better. I should have known earlier.
People don't know. I didn't know until I was 20 something. I was having sex, and I was like, what is the big I'm not having orgasms. I never masturbated. It never occurred to me. Now, that's a pretty good age, I think.
Yeah.
And then, do you still use vibrators?
Sure.
Oh, good. What's your favorite?
Sure. I don't think it has a name. I think it's just that thing that buzzes.
All right, it buzzes. Yeah. And
Are you
it works.
sure it's not something else?
I've got
like it's my electric toothbrush.
might have to
A lot of women use that.
They use electric
Yeah.
toothbrushes.
I've heard that
It's true.
too. They take off the brush part, the top part, and then just use the anchor of the. I'm not saying
I'd
I've
be
got.
resourceful. Those people would survive in prison, I think.
They would survive in prison.
They're just very
For a
resourceful.
lot of women, their first orgasm was like using their electric toothbrush.
Yeah.
I'm not going to recommend that to people. It could be not
Well,
very
at least if you're
sanitary.
going to do that, buy a separate one for your mouth.
Yeah.
That's all I would
Or
say.
just buy a vibrator. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but people are like, they don't know. They're like,
Yeah.
They don't know. They're like, oh, vibrations. They feel great.
what's the word for when you use household items?
pervertible?
Yeah.
What?
I've never heard that.
I've never heard that.
Well, because it's my
Is
job.
that an actual word?
It's an actual. Well, it's a urban dictionary. Pervertible.
Did you trademark that?
No, but I should get on it.
Yeah.
A pervertible is like if you use a spatula to spank your partner, or you use like tube socks as a blindfold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also resourceful.
Exactly. So
A belt to restrain.
A belt to restrain. What have you guys ever used any pervertibles around the house?
Gosh, now I got to think about it.
I know, right?
No, I haven't.
Well, there was that one flipper, that one pancake flipper I had.
You actually
know what I
did?
mean? Well, no, I didn't.
No, but now she might.
But now I might because I like the thwack of it.
Yeah,
the thwack.
Exactly.
You know?
It's a good
Oh my
thwack.
gosh.
Just be careful.
Very quick side story.
Yes.
I went on a date with someone like maybe a year ago. Really nice date. And I appreciated that he brought this up right away, but I was stunned. So we're on the date. It's great. And he says to me, he's like, I have to tell you something. And I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, I'm into BDSM and I cannot date someone or move forward with someone who's not. And I was like, okay, you want to tell me more? And he was very specifically into spanking. It was like, and he explained it all to me. But he was very mature about it. He was just like, this is what I have to do. If you can't, then we don't need to keep hanging out, but I really like you. And I was like, can I think about it?
Yeah.
Like this
But
a lot of
that's
pressure.
the only way he could get off?
It's just, that was his life. It was a lifestyle for him. It's like,
To Christian Grey, he did the same thing.
Yeah, it's
to Anastasia. If you read 50 Shades,
We did not go out again. And not that, just because I just didn't think I'd be into it, but I was
Right.
like, that was kind of ballsy and cool that he brought it up right away.
But that's what you should. Here's what that's what I would like everybody to do. I believe that BDSM, the community, like they know consent really well. They're like, I actually require this for orgasm and arousal, and so I'm not going to mess around with someone who's not going to be into
Absolutely.
it. And I really wish that we could get a lot of people on board with knowing what they're into and figuring out if you're sexually compatible before you get married, before you commit for years and have all these sexual challenges. Like there's a lot of things that we kind of just don't talk about because we don't, you know, like we said, we get older, we're more confident, but I just wish we could all learn to do that sooner.
Yeah, but
later.
by the time you get married, I mean, you should definitely have these conversations.
Right.
I mean, you're getting married, you're committing, and then it gets harder to disengage, or it gets harder, and then there's a kid, and then everything's just spin out of control. You got to get it under wraps before.
Is that how is you were married, right?
I've been married twice.
Okay. And what have you learned about sex and marriage?
I'll tell you.
Tell me, Christine.
It's hard, man. It's hard. Marriage is hard.
It is hard.
It takes a lot of work.
Have you been married?
No.
I just heard you talking to that caller on the phone, the woman who has 5 children. And I think it was on the podcast I was listening to of you. And it was a woman with 5 children. And you were trying to, give her different ideas of, getting stimulated in the bedroom again. But think about that. 5 kids. To have any privacy at all.
You would never.
And
you wouldn't get to go to the bathroom alone.
Where do you put your sex toys? You almost would have to have like a safe or a thing, or it's hard, man.
Yeah, it is. No, that is the problem, is that, well, we do have a solution for that. We have something called the UV, side note. It stores, cleans, and sanitizes your toys, and it has a lockbox on it. And it charges your toys, and it cleans your cell phone, your makeup brushes. It's this beautiful box that I leave next to my bed. So if you have kids, I'm not kidding you. Jamie's gonna pull it out of the garage. We should put this on the Instagram stories because it's pretty awesome.
Oh, cool.
I just can't help when we've got something for that. I'm like, I need to tell you. But the other thing is, here's the thing. It is no secret that when you get married and have kids, that sex is going to be put on the back burner. It's going to be hard to keep it as hot. You're not having sex on the living room floor, but it still has to be something that you continue to talk about. But marriage was never, who knows? Kids, for me too, was never my thing.
Have you ever been engaged?
No.
Interesting. Have you been asked, has somebody asked you to marry them?
No. I've been in relationships, but it was never really my goal. It was never anything that seemed interesting to me. I was never in a place where I felt like I wanted to get married.
But haven't men in the past talked to you like, Emily, I see us this and this and this and
this?
And
then I'd be like, I don't see that. So I'm glad we're
talking
right about it.
That's very honest.
It is very honest, and I think
cool.
Yeah, isn't that cool? It's called the UVEE.
It's like a mini tanning bed.
It looks like a mini tanning bed.
It does look like a mini tanning bed. Like your Barbie could go in there, but right, and it turns on, and it literally in 5 minutes? It cleans the toys.
Is
10
it
minutes.
Heat or steam?
It's UV light.
UV light,
and and it locks. And
you put your electric toothbrush right in there. You're done.
Well, there you go. Then I'm down with it.
That's what I'm saying.
But no, for me, it's funny because my issues, my whole history is a whole interesting other thing. But I was always about I've always started a career, and it was always about how am I going to have a big difference and change in the world and have a career and start a business since I was graduating from college. And I didn't understand how you still keep your independence. How do you do it all? How do you have a kid and get married and change the world? Mm-hmm. I didn't understand how you could do it. And now I'm at a place where, I think that I figured out a lot of stuff with work, and it's good that I would like to be in a longer term relationship. I mean, I've been in a lot of long term relationships. And maybe marriage, but again, my brain was not normal.
Mm-hmm. But now that your career is kind of on a nice path and going in an upward trajectory, maybe it might change that for you, that aspect. Because now, at the end of the night, you might be able to relax. Because I'm kind of in that place where I can't commit again because I've just been burned too many times in the past. And how can I concentrate on this show, and this show that I'm trying to run?
Right.
And then worry about pleasing you. I want to be with you, but I don't know how to fulfill that side of things.
Exactly. And you also are a mom.
I'm a mom.
Right? You have a daughter?
She turned 12 yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday.
She's a good
so
girl.
cute.
She's a good girl. And I tell her, I try so hard to keep sex as the conversation that keeps on going and ongoing.
I'm so glad.
It's not one conversation.
That's exactly it.
Ongoing. And recently she asked me, what is virgin? What does virginity mean? And I told her, that it most likely, women most likely lose their virginity between the ages of 28 and 34.
I love that you're keeping it straight.
Yeah. So
I love that it's real.
Yeah, it's very real.
I love that. Speaking to it straight. No, it is important to talk to you're right. I always say it's an ongoing thing. It's not a one-time, because these people say, oh, we had the talk. My parents had the talk with me.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know that my parents ever had a talk
Me
with
neither.
me. I don't remember it. Mm-mm.
Right.
Yeah,
That's exactly
I really
what
don't.
happens. But anyway, going back to the career thing, we talked about this last night, having it all, and it is hard to do, but I think I used to think that being in a relationship took away like the power, my power, but now I understand.
I don't think it's
I think
the
it can
power.
be a good
It's your-
compliment.
It's your
Independence.
time. It's your
My
time.
time.
It's where your energy is being spent. And then you think about a guy that you really like or care about or love. You think like, well, he deserves more time.
Right.
He
Yeah,
deserves.
but if you date someone that's equally as busy, I think that
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
key.
that's fine. But I get your mentality where it's marriage has never been on the forefront of my mind. Like I've never thought about what my wedding day would be. I've never thought about like I've just never thought about it.
Right.
And I could see myself in like 10 years being like, oh, maybe I should have thought about that more because I've just been same thing, so career focused.
Well,
It's all I care about.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I
don't
like
think,
dating and I like having someone with me.
Right.
And maybe I'd like to be married, but it's just not. It's never been something I cared about.
It's very interesting to think about. Is it because there's this? Because I always felt like I also didn't have the biological clock, which isn't really a real thing. I think it's a psychological clock where you're thinking a lot about kids and family and marriage. So maybe there is something to that, to thinking like, when you're really thinking like, do I picture myself married and what would that look like? So it's still there, even if it's not the wedding, but so then your career doesn't, like I don't have any, we also talked this last night, regrets about it. I'm serious. I really feel like I've always stayed true to myself, but I feel like, it's just interesting to think, do I really want
if
it?
you've
Both
never-
ways.
Yeah, and it's weird if you've never pictured it. Like I can
Right.
picture and I can have vivid like visuals of what my future career is going to be like. I can picture like this is crazy, but I think I'm winning an Academy Award. I can picture what it
I'm
feels
there.
like to be there. I can feel like
Yep.
what it feels like to stand there, like everything about it. I cannot picture being married to someone. I don't know I can't picture it at all. I can't.
That's an interesting-
It's never like
interesting.
crossed my mind.
Yeah.
To, like,
I think for a lot of younger women, at least for me, it was like I had these numbers in my head, like I got to be married by 25, I got to be, and I got to have a kid by this age, and then that all falls apart, of course. But I think part of it is that you're thinking about not just the guy, you're thinking about the house, and there's going to be a garage, and here's what we're going to do for Christmas, and we're going on these vacations, we're going to
Yeah.
get this dog. So you're picturing more than just a husband, you're picturing this life, and how could I live in that house without some help?
Yeah,
How could I
exactly.
afford that? So therefore I got to take this path. And like I have 4 older sisters, and that's the path they took. So to me that sounds logical.
Right, of course, and that's how your life was set up. They were all doing it. Your parents were.
course.
A lot of it has to do with that too. Your parents, how you grew up, what you saw. Like my parents were divorced. My mom never said, "I expect you to get married." She never asked me, never pressured me at all. Like, and I think there's a lot. Again, your upbringing, society.
It used to be more about where you live as well in terms of mentality, but now with social media and now that we're all a little more connected, maybe that doesn't matter as
It's
much.
changing a lot. I have to say that this so millennial generation, it feels like, right? It's all millennials. That it is a little bit different. That you guys are kind of delaying. You're not.
They're smarter.
Oriented towards that.
They're smarter.
Yeah, I mean,
period.
they're just saying like people are just waiting longer because one, a lot of millennials are in debt and they don't want to get married in debt, and also they just feel like they want to have their career set in stone before they decide to settle down with like a whole other person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I never felt like that was the other thing was like I never realized it. I never thought that someone else was going to take care of me. Like I was raised that like don't rely on anyone to take care of you. You got to make it. And then I chose a career that's very challenging. And so anyway, but
Yeah,
I
but
think
let's say-
these are all changing, these messages,
Yeah.
right?
I think so too. But let's say you're like a nurse, like a regular job, and you make good money. You can really live anywhere as a nurse or a teacher, maybe. So then you got that. So then what? In other words, we're talking about careers about like show business,
Yeah,
which
we're-
never ends,
Yeah.
and you're
Never
gonna be
ends.
you could be dropped
Hardest job ever.
tomorrow, and you could be dropped, and there's never a guarantee. There's not necessarily even going to be a payoff.
Right, exactly.
And so but let's say you're a nurse or a teacher, like regular. Then
Regular person,
You get
not like
that
us.
under your belt, and then it's like,
Civilian.
okay, what's next?
Right,
So it's
exactly.
for some people, it kind of makes
And
sense.
it depends also where you live. I'm from Michigan. Right, that's true. Okay, you guys, I have to ask you both the 5 quickie questions.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're going to go back and forth here. All right, biggest turn on, Christine.
Oh gosh. Bodies.
All right,
Like in terms of like athleticism.
okay.
I like an athlete.
Biggest turn on.
Confidence.
Okay, biggest turn off.
Bodies.
That's such a good one. No, you're right.
Not taking care of yourself, not working out. I know what that is because I work out all the time, and I like that. That's just
Same.
my thing.
Get it. Biggest turn off. Did you,
Being shitty to people.
okay. Celebrity crush.
Oh my gosh. There's so many. There's so many.
I think you had Peter Frampton like a couple weeks ago on the podcast. Well, Frampton comes alive.
And I was that's so true. When I was growing up, I had a picture of Peter Frampton on my wall and a picture of Henry Winkler. When he was
yes,
the Fonz.
Fonz.
That was the shit, man. That was the shit. But if I had to have a poster on my wall now, and in fact, I just recently gave this poster away. That's how mature I am. That's Rafael Nadal. Oh, baby
I don't know.
Jesus.
Okay.
He's a
player?
world-class tennis player.
Oh,
the king
yes.
of clay.
He's
I mean,
hot. I've seen him. Yep.
Oh, my God.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Manly men.
Craziest place you've had sex?
Well, I was a flight attendant for like 7 years. So, I guess I'm going to say the plane. Not that other people
Did you have it on the
that.
plane with a
Always wondered how
passenger?
people do that.
With a passenger?
Oh, here it is. Two words.
pilot?
Diaper deck. You go in the lav that has the diaper deck. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I don't know. You
diaper
go
deck.
in and
The
then
diaper
someone
deck,
follows you.
it's
I
like a
don't know.
tray
Right,
table
like
that
what's
comes
the amount
down
of time
over
that
the
you
toilet.
have to have?
It's
But
only
all
like
the
a small
germs.
window, maybe 90 seconds. I go to the bathroom first, then you come up, knock a little bit, and then I'm letting you in, pull down the diaper deck, and there's always a little thing on for parents to know where to change the baby. There's a little thing on the lav door that will show you, oh, this one has the diaper deck. You go in there, you pull that down, you sit up there.
Wow.
And we're right in line. Look at you getting
Membership,
answers all my questions.
membership to the Mile High Club just
gift. There you go. It's a
skyrocketing right now.
I'm a giver, Ken.
Wow. Okay. Craziest place you've ever had sex, Rachel.
Maybe a
All right.
car. That's all I
Okay,
can think
That's
of.
not crazy.
I know. I can't think of anything else.
All right. How about your biggest dating deal breaker? It's the last
Biggest
question.
dating
Cheating, probably.
Cheating.
Yeah.
All right.
cheating, lying.
Yeah.
All the things.
I hate when people litter, stupid stuff like that. Like if I'm with a guy and all of a sudden
I
he
agree with you. Littering
Who
shows that
still
you.
litters? That's so 80s.
know, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Littering just shows that you think you're more important than everyone else in the world.
Littering in.
And, okay, you
Littering
guys,
in.
thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. Okay, can we put at Rachael O'Brien? Rachel, gonna put this all in the show notes.
Okay.
At Screwed Ups, most importantly, at Screw Stories.
Exactly.
On Instagram, Screwed Up Stories is their podcast. It's hilarious. They're very talented women here. You got to check them out and support them. Rachael O'Brien, Christine Blackburn. It's RachelO'BrienComedy.com, ChristineBlackburn.com. We'll also put this in the show notes at sexwithemily.com so you guys can see them, what we're talking about. We're going to post some photos on Instagram, and then we got to go. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into your emails. Hey guys, love answering your questions. It's why I do what I do. If you want a question answered on the show, go to my website, sexwithemily.com, click the Ask Emily tab, fill out the short form, or email feedback@sexwithemily.com. As always, include your name, your age, where you live, and how you listen to the show. Thanks, guys. Okay, Jamie's here. She's going to read the emails.
Okay, this first one comes to us from Kirsten, 23 in Wisconsin. She writes, Dear Emily, my boyfriend and I have been together for over 6 years. He's my high school sweetheart and best friend. Our sex life when we started dating was great, but as time went on, it dropped off. Around September of last year, we talked about how our lives have been, including sex, and we said that we wanted to improve things, and if it didn't, we would break up. I've tried some things you've said, texting him sexy texts to play around and tease him, spontaneous sex when he gets home and trying to surprise him. I've been trying to be more adventurous, but almost every time I get the answer, I don't want to do work, or I don't want to be intimate, just suck it and bend over. We've tried toys and he always hurts me with them. We've tried anal penetration. It wasn't my thing. I've tried masturbating in front of him and it still doesn't seem to be enough. I'd even love mutual masturbation. He isn't open to that. What would you suggest for things to do that might make our sex life more fun and sexy? Also, am I wrong for feeling like I'm doing it all and he isn't?
Whoa. Okay, Kirsten. This is a doozy because here's the thing. If I had like a Sex with Emily greatest hits tips, you did them all, honey. You are doing a lot of work here. And no, to answer your question, you're not wrong at all for feeling like you're doing it all and he isn't. He's not doing anything except for saying suck over and bend it, which Jamie and I both went, and you know me. I'm open, you guys. I understand. I'm not there. I can't judge your relationship. I don't know you both. But that to me is just not a kind thing at all to say. And I would not tolerate that. But I never want to say to any of you guys, well, this isn't for you. You know, like I said, I haven't met you. I know that you love him. And our first love, this is your first love, Kirsten. It's the deepest kind of love. And it's the first time we learn. Our heart opens and we just can't imagine anything else. And it can be really hard to think of our life without this person. So I just want to say that you're both still really young. You have a lot of life skills, a lot of learning to do, even outside the bedroom. But in the bedroom, you guys you're each other's only experience. And so you're doing the right things. He just, he might not be hearing what you're saying. He might not really understand it. I don't like it all that you're having pain during sex and you must be exhausted from all these efforts. I think that you want to know that you've done everything before you decide if a relationship is over. So I know you've tried to have conversations, but you have to remember that if you have said to him, I want to spice things up, and you both agreed to it, you got to have the conversation again. Sex conversations are not a one-time thing. So it's about all the things I say, and I know you listen carefully to the show, Kirsten, but talking to him outside the bedroom and letting him know how this is all making you feel about your sex life and what you really want to improve. And you need something from him. Like, you need him to be kind of giving a little bit here and making the effort. But you also can't make it blamey and shamey and, like, why aren't you doing this and why aren't you doing that? So it's really just keeping it positive and like, I love you and I really want to connect with you, during sex. I want to feel more love. And so let him know that it's something you have to both work on together. And I think that, clearly he's not a mind reader. I don't like that he's hurting you with the toys. He doesn't want you to mutually masturbate. A lot of times when we're presented with new sex information, like our partner makes a request and it scares us or we don't get it, we say no. But maybe he needs some more information around it. So by you saying mutual masturbation, it would be really sexy because I'd love to watch you get off and then you could see how I touch myself. Like, maybe bringing it up again in the way of explaining things to him, like giving him a little more details, could help him kind of understand what you want to try here. You've done so many things here, and I think that having another loving conversation would feel good, and see how he responds to that. But I don't know how much longer I would keep going through it if nothing seems to change. All right. Thanks for your question.
Okay, so this next one is from Mike, 57, Atlanta. Hi, Emily. My wife has orgasms using the jacuzzi water jet. Can you suggest a toy that simulates that? Thanks.
Okay, Mike, you know that a lot of women have their first orgasm in the shower or in the bathtub using like the jets. We did some research for this because I know that since this kind of stimulation for women is so popular, there's been a few companies that have tried to get like attachments for your shower head that would kind of simulate it. So I just found one by Love Honey. It's called the Drops of Sweden H2O Water Jet Shower Head Rabbit Vibrator. Now, I haven't tried this, but what it says is you attach it to your shower head to propel a stream of water straight to your clitoris and then unleash the powerful vibrations of your G-spot for a unique blended aquagasm. So basically, it looks like a rabbit vibrator that attaches to your shower head and can kind of give you that same kind of orgasm. The other thing is the magic wand would be good because vibrations are very strong and intense, which is what she might like about the jacuzzi jet. The womanizer is also a great clitoral stimulator, but maybe a removable shower head would be a great addition to your bathroom. I have one of those. They're amazing. And a lot of toys these days are waterproof. I think the We Vibe Tango is waterproof, so she can get one and bring it into her bathtub and shower time. But I'm kind of getting that you might want something like that Love Honey product. So let us know how that goes. Check it out.
Okay, this next one is from Rebecca. She's 33 in North Carolina, and she writes, Dear Emily, my husband and I have a great relationship, but our sex life could be better. When we have sex, it's great, yes, but we can go for like 2 to 3 weeks without, which I don't think both of us like. However, we haven't seemed to be able to fix it. First, I prefer to be submissive. Throw me on the bed and have your way with me. He wants me to initiate more as he takes my desire for submission as a lack of passion. So I feel like he avoids sex. When I do initiate, the response is either, I don't feel good, your timing is off, or even, you need to be sexier and have more confidence, or, something like that. So I kind of just stopped trying. While I can talk to him about everything else, for some reason, when we talk about sex, it kind of always becomes my fault, or at least feels that way. How can we make things better? We want to have a kid and are trying, but I feel like it's never going to happen if we can't get our bedroom life at its best.
Oh, you're right, honey. I love it. Don't have a kid until you figure out the sex stuff, okay? There's a lot here because I understand it sounds like you can't win. You're trying to, when you try to initiate, he says you have to do it better and that you don't have enough confidence, which sounds like really hurtful. And when you don't do it, he says being submissive means that you don't have passion. So it sounds to me like you nailed it here, that this, you said you want to have more sex conversations and they're hard, but understand that sex conversations are hard, at least at first. So be kind and patient with yourself. They're not easy conversations, but I promise you they get better with practice. So you can even say, we really need to talk about it. Like I say, outside the bedroom, when you're not like in the bedroom in the middle of sex, but you got to say, like, we both want to work on our sex life. I think we both agree that, like, what can we do here to make us, make sure that we're both satisfied? You can even explain to him that, like, that your submission is not a lack of passion at all. Here's the thing. He might not really understand that, what it means by being, submissive. Like, there is power play, role play. Power play is a dynamic that exists in all sexual relationships. Usually at one point in a moment, there's someone who's dominant and someone who's submissive. That could switch 6 times in a sex session, or just in one sex session, you're submissive, he's dominant. That just happens. If 2 people are submissive, nothing's going to happen, right? So maybe he needs to understand that more, what that means. So, like, oftentimes we don't put a lot of words around it because we think they're going to get it, and it's just really hard. So the more ideas you could give him, the more descriptions, the more scenarios will be a lot easier for you. And then when he wants you to initiate, my best advice for this is saying, what does that look like to him? Because if he paints a picture to you, he says, you know what, I just want you to grab me and start kissing me, or I want you to throw me on the bed. Well, then you don't have to, like, in your head go, what do I do? Ask him for more information. And remember, with these sex conversations, my best advice is, besides the fact of having it outside the bedroom, is that you want to make sure that it's your tone is light, and it's coming from curiosity and love, with an effort to make things better in your relationship. That has to be about both of you. So your tone is everything. You don't want to blame. You don't want to shame. You don't want to use, like, you don't do this or you don't do that. The most we can stick with I statements and how things make you feel. No one can argue with our feelings. That's what I suggest for your sex conversation. And I think, scheduling sex is also important. Scheduling sex, if it's just not happening enough for you guys, knowing that Saturday night is sex night can work for you. And then it's non-negotiable. If it's on your calendar, you got to do it. And that gives you, both of you, time to look forward to Saturday night, to send each other sexy texts, like what you're going to do or what's going to happen. Because a lot of what's missing is that whole build up, that desire. And once we start putting, the words and the efforts into it, you'll find that you're both really turned on for Saturday night. So those are my suggestions for you right now. Just start having the talk, and I promise it gets easier.
Mm-hmm. So this next one is from Emma, 24, in Australia. She writes, "Hey there, Emily. Love your show. I think I've listened to 20 podcasts this week. My question is, can you intensify your orgasm? I've always struggled to get there in the past, but not because I physically can't feel it, but I would start and the sensation would be so powerful that I let go too early or pull away my toy. Now, with more practice with my partner and many toys, I realize that I am getting them properly, but I feel they can get stronger and be longer. If so, what are some tips and tricks? Kegels, perhaps? I feel when I control them during my orgasm that brings more intensity, or should I not be thinking this and let my body go completely? Physical and mental tips are appreciated. Thank you. You're amazing."
Oh, you're amazing. Thank you, Emma. 20 podcasts this week. That is a lot of podcasts. I love it. Okay, so here's the thing. I love you. First of all, I love your drive. You're like, okay, I got this point, but what's next? I'm the same way. I never rest. I'm like, where can I take this to the next level? So I love the idea of intensifying your orgasm. So yes, let me start with Kegels. Absolutely. This Kegels help women intensify their orgasms for sure. Doing your Kegels, those are the muscles that are responsible for our climax, those muscles. So yes, the stronger they are, you can tense and relax them, pump them, during intercourse, and that can help with orgasm for sure. Breath, playing with your breath, also really important. And here's different ways to play with it, is that when we pant, like during sex, like during intercourse, like you've panted, like those short, shallow breaths, those will get us aroused quickly. Like that's like a higher state of arousal. And then you could play with deeper, slower, shallow breaths. And that kind of slows down your arousal. And that's more like relaxing on your body, like the physiological level. And also when we're more relaxed in our body, then we're more sensitive and attuned to touch and all the sensations happening in our body. So either one of these, when we play with breath, can help intensify all the orgasms. I think it's also important to play with different types of touch. Remember this, that we're so used to touching ourselves in certain ways or using certain toys, and we get used to following the same neural pathways. So much like They often say, like, for creativity, I don't know if you've heard this, but if you always brush your teeth with your left hand, you should use your right hand. Try a different hand when you're masturbating, or try a different toy for a new sensation. Like, people always like, oh, is my vibrator going to get me? Am I going to get too used to it? I mean, I think with everything, don't always use the same toy. So try a new toy, try different sensations. And there might be a period, though, of adjustment. So you got to be patient, because again, we get anxious. We like, I want the orgasm to happen. But what you're saying is, I want to intensify it. I want to experience something different. So be patient with playing with these different techniques. So you're going to get there, but you just need to take some time with it. Now, you asked physical and mental tips, and you asked about, Kegels and all that. I think that the most important thing is, like, don't overthink, should I be doing my Kegels? Should I not? I think Kegels are a great thing to do during sex. You'll know when you should be doing it and when you shouldn't. And my best mental tip is just to get out of your head. Once you start worrying about something, or you're thinking you should be just doing something different, go back to your breath. That's my best advice, is to go back to your breath and whatever you're feeling in your body, and just get out of your head. So let me know how your orgasms get more intense after this, Emma. I can't wait to hear from you.
Be ambitious about your orgasms.
Ambitious. Yeah, I love it. Why aren't we all more? We all should be more ambitious about our orgasms. Okay.
Okay, so this last one comes to us from Maurice, 39, in Louisiana. Hello, Emily. What lube would you suggest for me to use on my wife that won't harm her or me when I'm giving her oral? What's the best cock ring that would not just help me, but pleasure my wife when I'm wearing it? And last thing, what's the name of the spray that could help me not orgasm so fast? Thank you for your show.
All right. Okay, Maurice. I love it. Sounds like you are an avid listener. These are very specific questions, and I'm going to help you out. When you say harm, you want a lube that won't harm her, I assume because you have sensitive skin. So I recommend Pure water-based formula, PJUR. Those are pretty simple, straightforward water-based formulas, or System Joe water-based formulas are great. For penis rings, I love the WeVibe Pivot. It has a great vibrator on it, a great vibe, great motor, and vibrations can feel good to you too. I also like the Hot Octopus Atom Plus. That's also great for clitoral stimulation. And I would just go on our site and check them out. Like, the Hot Octopus Atom Plus is a larger one, and I think it's cool because it's just a bigger toy. So it has more surface area that would allow to target her clitoris more. And so, like, if she's on top grinding on you, I think it's cool, but it's bigger. So the Pivot is just a little smaller, but they're all powerful vibrations. The spray you're asking about is Promescent, Promescent, and it's a quickly absorbing delay spray. It uses a little bit of lidocaine, and it'll help you last longer in bed. There you go. You can find this all on our website. Oh, and I forgot to mention at the top of the show that I am on SiriusXM satellite radio, you guys, which has been so exciting the last few months. You can check it out at I'm on Monday through Friday. I'm on 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 to 10 East. And it's pretty cool, 2 hours a night. And you guys could get a free subscription to it if you want to go to sexwithemily.com/SXM. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I love you all. Thanks to my incredible team, growing every day. Ken, Samantha, Julia, Michelle, producer Jamie, and Michael. Was it good for you? Email me, feedback@sexwithemily.com.